What is good, everybody? This is Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here with a blast from the past from 2015 Satellarknight. So for those who don't know, this is probably besides True Draco, I've only played 2 control decks in my entire life. I hate purple cards, but I have played, a few, and this is one of them. This deck is really close to home with me because this is probably the first deck that I ever picked up competitive-wise. And the deck really served me well during its time, etc., etc. It was a fun, really good deck. It ended up winning Worlds to speak to its, to add some volume to its standing. But for the most part, guys, I can't wait to show you guys this framework of the deck. And the Invitational's around the corner, so I really need to bunker down and figure out what I'm going to take there. But this is kind of a skeleton for you guys, so if you guys are interested in anything like this, you guys can start crafting your own list and everything. But pretty much the strategy of the deck is to get your opponent practically in a Trevere loop where you're just continually bouncing back your opponent's field and bouncing back continuous spell and traps that you have to be able to recycle and reuse. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, guys, if you guys want to help support the channel, you can do so by using a few ways. By going down to the links down in the description, using the TCG Player affiliate link, checking out our sponsors, Ultra Pro, your playmat, etc. You can also support the channel by going to the Team COG store and buying awesome TCG merch, such as these playmats, all available on the store. And finally, if you guys want to, you guys can become members of the channel and support the channel that way. That is the best way to support the channel and is the most profitable way to do so. You guys can also check out my live streams. I try to live twice a week, and of course, the more members we get, the more time I can stream, etc. So, we're just kind of waiting for that day that we can become a full-time streamer, But until then, catch our streams. I mostly do remote duels, and sometimes, like tonight, I ended up doing remote dueling my viewers, which, just come on, chill, have a good time. Anyway, we'll go ahead and start out with the decks, guys. We are rocking triple Satellarknight Deneb. So Satellarknight Deneb here is practically the Stratos of the deck. It is practically the next thing to Stratos. Normal or special, add a Satellarknight monster from your deck to your hand. This does not miss timing, which is awesome. They kind of fixed that thing. This is like, you always want to see Deneb plus 4 traps, pretty much, but not much more to explain. Move on. We are on to 3 Satellarknight Altair. This is kind of the longevity you kind of get in the deck. Altair is kind of the Coach Soldier Wolfbark of the deck. Normal or special, reborn from the graveyard. So like Deneb searches Altair, you always have that continual follow-up to be able to normal Altair, you get Deneb, and there you go. Next, we are rocking Satellarknight Unicalhai. Satellarknight Unicalhai is the Foolish Bird of the deck. On normal or special, send 1 Satellarknight monster, I believe. No, 1 Satellarknight card from your deck to your hand. So I don't know like what other cards you'd be dumping, but mostly you're dumping Deneb so that you get access to Deneb, so you can utilize Call the Haunted, etc. to be able to get there. Moving on, we are on to double Vega. Vega is the normal summon, special summon from the hand. Normally, if you open Altair and you open Deneb and Altair, you're going for Vega, and then you want to get the Vega Altair Deneb cycle going to be able to XYZ into Trevere. But that is it for the monsters. I'm choosing not to play hand traps. You could arguably play any amount of hand traps that you want to play because, hand traps are disruptions for going first. And in all retrospect, you really could just fit the deck to your need, etc., Double Desires. You choose Desires over Extravagance, and you choose Desires over Prosperity because this is a trap deck, right? So, like, why are trap decks not good this format? Because every combo deck outpaces them and outgrinds them in the terms of resources. So unless you're Eldritch, or unless you're trying to think of another trap deck, but Eldritch is kind of like the one that pops to my mind because it's able to keep up by the banishing from the graveyard and resetting stuff. So you need to get those +1s in order to keep ahead of the opponent, because once you start like making trades and your trades are break even or just practically break even and your opponent's going plus on every interaction they do because they're a combo deck, etc., you're going to lose in a resource. So Pot of Desires over Prosperity. Prosperity is good, but Prosperity is a break even, whereas Desires is a hard +1. Same with Extravagance. You could play Extravagance. I just wouldn't recommend it because you need to keep a minimum of 2 Trevere in your extra deck at all times, and you're not guaranteed to do that with Extrav since it's at random. Double Skybridge. This is a card I might consider taking to 1, but this practically says that if you open Skybridge plus any of your Tellarknights, they become Deneb. And then you can do some chinky plays to dodge Impermanent Effect Veiler. In fact, Impermanent Effect Veiler is one of the biggest hassles this deck has because you normal summon your Vega, it gets Impermed, you can chain Skybridge, put it back, still summon the card from the hand. And that works for, of course, Altair as well. Summon Altair, they Imperm or Effect Veiler. You go Skybridge, bring out your Vega, bring back the Deneb, search, and then like you can do some pretty crazy things with Skybridge. But it kind of clogs a little bit, but you like it's your third reinforcements kinda. Simply because if you happen to open, like I said, with any Satellars that are not Deneb, it gets you immediately to Deneb, it gets you Altair, so it's just, you know, another consistency card. One Upstart Goblin. This is a flex spot. Play whatever you want. Upstart just is not a third desire. You can just smack down Upstart, draw, and there you go. Rhoda, your fourth copy of Deneb, your fourth copy of Altair, your fourth copy of Unicalhi, your third copy of Vega. Not much more to be said. Monster Reborn, another flex spot. You don't have to play this. However, I have found myself I like drawing into it or having it because it allows you to go ahead and get 1/2 of a rank 4 without committing your normal summons. So like, it just allows you to bait certain back rows and already have like a rank 4, because you got to remember we have Baltamias, which allows us to kind of cheat out Trevere if we happen to not see like the ability to get out 3 monsters. But Call by the Grave, it is a pseudo trap in the sense that it can be set, but you also want to resolve the Neb to get Altair as frequently as possible. And yeah, so like we actually had a match with this deck against Trains, and Trains ended up winning the overall game, but like the grind was crazy. And Trains, if you don't know, comparative to Eldritch, Trains is almost on the same grind level as that. So considering that this deck is a total of like 6 years old and is able to keep up with like the new control decks, it's great to hear and it's great to see. This, like I said, Konami just needs to support this deck, and of course they'll probably half-ass support it, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. But we'll move on to the thick purple cards of the deck, the heresy of the deck.
Heresy, ladies and unacceptable.
And yeah, so we are rocking triple Stellar Nova Alpha. This is the themed counter trap of the deck. When the spell trap or monster effect is activated, send 1 Tellarknight monster you control to the graveyard as cost, and then negate the activation, destroy it, and then you draw a card. So this right here allows you to practically, it's a +1 if you really think about it. And if you're sending like Trevere or Delteros, these guys float. So like you're getting mad advantage off of resolving an alpha. This card really needs to be searchable. So like Konami, if you're watching, give us a link one. And simply, I've already brought this up to my YouTube chat, so like, or my live stream chat. So again, if you guys want to be a part of that, pop on over when we are live streaming, hit that notification bell so you never miss one. But turning like any of these into a link one to like immediately search the counter trap, making the counter trap live, making cards like Call of the Haunted or Altair live right away is crazy. Like that would fix a lot of issues the deck has, and it would also make it to where the deck's not totally broken, you know. But yep, 3 Stone Up Alpha, Triple Judgment. We do not want to lose to Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, Titty Twisters. So in a way, we are technically playing 3 Judgments, or excuse me, we're playing 6 Judgments, and that's what we want. We want to stop all those powerful blowout cards, because we like trap decks lose to being like completely blown out, so we do not want to lose that way. However, I will say your monsters are not big, so Judgment is kind of iffy. By paying half that life and your monsters being really tiny, it kind of puts you in kind of a dangerous, danger zone, a dangerous, dangerous land out there with being at 4,000 life, and your biggest monster in the main deck is 18, so do keep that in mind. Moving on, we are rocking triple Fogblade. Fogblade over Fiendish Chain, because you can target your own monsters and then your opponent cannot attack that monster. This card is a continuous trap, so this is why it's important, is because when you summon Trevere, you bounce this card back to your hand to reset and reuse, and it's just, yeah, it's really good. It's a really solid card. You could potentially play Fiendish Chain if you want to be old school, and I think Fiendish Chain comes in like ultimate rare, so like if you wanted to like do a mad flex, you really could. Moving on, we're playing triple Call of the Haunted again. Monster Reborn, but a continuous trap. So it allows you, again, when you Trevere, you're just able to put it back, bounce it back to your hand and then reuse it again, which is really cool. And then I guess I would say the only hand trap we are playing is triple Imperm. I've kind of, ever since I've had Imperms, I wanted to play this deck. This card is just really cool. If you see it in your opening hand and you're going second, it kind of allows us to kind of like have some form of main deck interruption. So we're not like playing into like opposing boards like without anything. And then, of course, if you see this, you can set it, and that's just pretty cool. This is probably my favorite card in the deck, and this card could be anything you want, but Expendable Die. So this card is crazy. Let's go ahead and talk about this card, okay? So Expendable Die is, it says tribute 1 warrior monster, then target 1 card on the field, destroy it, and if you do, draw a card. So it allows you to draw a card, which is extremely important, and what I was going for with trying to keep advantage on with your opponent. So since you're a trap-based deck, you're trying to +1 your opponent instead of them going break even or +1. So like if you have Trevere and then you end up expendable die, right? You tribute the Trevere, pop a card, draw a card, Trevere, summon out Altair to Deneb, search out Altair. So like you just go mad plus by resolving this card, and it's just crazy. It really is crazy. I've thought about playing Trap Tricks just to be able to grab this card, because since you are playing Imperm and this, you would have like 2 targets for Trap Tricks, and it allow you to have a little bit more consistency. But we really need to resolve all the traps we have, and I did not want Trap Trick to restrict us from like being blown out because like their opponent held on Lightning Storm or something like that. But yep, 3 expendable die. This card is crazy in this deck. The simple fact that all the warriors float, like Trevere floats, and then of course Deltaros here, Deltaros floats, that is extremely important and allows you to like get that additional plus to keep in the game and out resource those crazy resource decks. Finally, 1 Imperial Order. In case you know, this is probably like one of the meta calls in the deck. You play Drytron, flip this over, we win. Not much more, and especially since we're able to bounce it back to our hand to reset and just continue using is just pretty crazy. You could definitely, I know there's some like things we can talk about real quick. You see there's no strikes. I'm kind of playing imperms instead of the strikes. You could definitely play strikes if you want to. I'm not like, you probably should, but as of right now, it's just a framework. I think that expendable die is just extremely too good not to play in the deck, considering it just works so well with Trevere and Deltaros that you really want to. Especially since like you do have some pretty cool going first combos that you can do. Not really combos, but you know, like if you open Vega plus Deneb, you're going to be able to go into Baltamias, and then you just smack on Deltaros on top of Baltamias. And then if you have no access to Altair, you're missing a piece, etc. When you expendable die the Deltaros, you get to summon from the deck your missing piece to start getting all your pieces in cycle, which is really cool. But yeah, you should probably play Strike if you have it. I just didn't feel like pulling mine out. But it's like you don't need Strike. So that's what's crazy about this. Like as long as you're playing Alpha Nova and you're playing, I believe, Judgments and 3 continuous, or pretty much 6 continuous traps, everything else is kind of in the flex spot for you. So by all means, you know, the deck list the traps are definitely the most flexible in the entire deck. So if you love playing purple, play whatever purple cards you want. Moving on, we are to the extra deck. We are playing triple Trevere. So Trevere here is, if you guys have never read this card is pretty powerful. The deck might have been power crept out, but this card is ridiculous. So this card practically says it requires 3 level 4 Satellarknight monsters. So that's why Vega Altair Deneb is the cycle you go through to get to this. On summon, it compulses every card on both fields back to the hand. So Dragoon, see ya. You know, like all those things that cannot be targeted or destroyed, that doesn't matter. See ya. It has to be completely unaffected by monsters in order to get around Trevere. And then Trevere has a second effect where if you can detach a card and then rip a random card from your opponent's hand. That is not once per turn. So if they leave Trevere out, you start your turn by detaching off of 1 Trevere, rip 1 card. You make your second Trevere, detach another off of that Trevere, rip 2 cards. So it's crazy. Like it's extremely good and extremely powerful. If anything, this is like maybe the only card that will keep the deck alive and going until Konami decides to give us some support. But anyway, 2 Baltamias. This card is crazy. Konami learned their lesson with Ptolemaeus, which hopefully we'll get Ptolemaeus back one day. But 2 level 4 Satellarknight monsters. All monsters on the field become dark, so that can kind of like, that works very well with Diamond. So like if you're able to establish Baltamias and then get Diamond out, you practically are able to negate every monster effect on the field. And then this card has the effect of you can detach, discard, and then smack a light Satellarknight XYZ on top of it, and it's treated as an XYZ summon. So that's where if you don't have the resources to get to 3 Satellarknights, you're just able to smack 2, make Baltamias, discard, and then smack on Trevere. We've actually, my man John from Just Nuts, we were talking about maybe playing a Satellarknight Eldritch, simply because like the discard off Baltamias would allow the Eldritch traps to get more value, and you'd be able to keep up some sort of tempo by having the Eldritch traps, making Baltamias free. You bounce back the Golden Lord to your hand, you can just discard the Golden Lord. It's definitely something that we might test in the future, maybe after the Invitational, so when we can take this a little bit more serious. But anyway, that's it for 2 Baltamias. 1 Satellarknight Deltaros. This card's really interesting. It came out before we got Trevere, and this card is practically your opponent cannot activate anything on its summon. You know, like it has like one of those effects where like Bottomless Trap Hole, you cannot activate anything on this card summon or the summon of other Satellarknight cards. And then you can detach a card and pop a card. And then, of course, if this card leaves the field, it floats from the deck. You can summon 1 Satellarknight from your deck. And that's something else. Trevere allows you to summon from the graveyard. So you have like the 2 floating effects to kind of keep in cycle. Finally, for the final, Satellarknight, Constellar Diamond. I don't know why I'm having tongue twisters saying Satellar and Teller. So this card right here is, you can XYZ this on top of a Tellarknight during your main phase 2. It has the ability of, let me read you like its full effects. Get past all of that. While this card has XYZ material, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. So it really shuts off a lot of decks in some way. So like, and then on top of that, whenever a dark monster activates its effect, detach, negate, and destroy. And it can do that as long as it has materials. So the card is very good in the Orcus matchup. The card is really good in like some other matchups, I would say, but Orcus is one that comes to mind that's more prominent. Of course, like Drytron, it has some sort of synergy because like they can't add back the cards from their graveyard to their hand. And of course, you know, like Burning Abyss, it's really good. It's practically designed to beat Burning Abyss in a way. And Shadal's, like Shadal, like this card just completely hits Shadal pretty hard. But yep, that's it for Diamond. One Constellar Omega. This is probably one of the flex spots. This is just in case when you're trying to push into back row and you have like Diamond and Omega, you detach from Omega as a quick effect. They're unaffected by spell and traps, and you just poke in for a lot more damage. If they ever decide to give us Ptolemaeus back and we get Pallades, it'll be a lot better because then you can just like get Pallades with Omega and then like protect Pallades from the cards like Imperm and then like other trap spell and traps, you know. But Omega is definitely, you don't have to play Omega. I just felt like Omega just kind of fit the theme a little bit better. One Tornado Dragon and then one Abyss Dweller. These two cards are, you have to play them. You're a rank 4 deck, so like you have the you know, you can very easily make these cards, so you definitely want to have them in your arsenal to fire off. Dweller against those like kind of like rogue or like the graveyard resign matchups. Tornado Dragon to pop back row, and you know, stuff like that. Douglas, the Watchless here. This card just allows you to, it's better than Tsukiyomi in a way because you get to draw cards right away, draw 2, discard 1, draws you into more traps. And then the only thing I wish, if this card was a warrior, man, it would have so much synergy because then you could like draw 2, get an expendable die, sack this off, and you know, draw a card. But other than that, you can also like summon it here, and then like you can bring back Altair. Altair can bring back Deneb, search, overlay for Baltamias, bounce it back. You know, it's just, there's a lot of utility that you can have with Douglas the Watchless here. The Utopia package of this deck, if you have not noticed, their biggest monster in the extra deck is Diamond at a whopping 27. So we need something to beat over Dragoons. Gosh, Dragoon. I hate that card, man. I hate that card and that dang snake.
I'm a snake.
But we gotta just have the ability to beat over it, and this is what allows us to do so. And of course, big problematic monsters. If you can't get to, if you run through your Baltamiases, and you can't get the Trevere to bounce those big problematic cards, you have to have the ability to beat over them. And Lightning allows you to do so. And that is it for the extra deck. It is 13 cards, and I guess to go ahead and tell you the other 2 cards would simply just be the Baguska and Gravity Controller. Gravity Controller is extremely, I would think would be the only Link monster you would play, because it has some like versatility, where if you summon Trevere and your opponent decides to leave you the Trevere, and you don't have the resources to make another Trevere, so you just link off Trevere into the Gravity Controller. Trevere's effect will trigger, and not tribute. It would trigger to summon out the Altair and the Neb back from the graveyard, and then you would have the ability to go to Baltamias and actually get the Trevere loop going. That is how you're able to practically win with this deck, is you get the Trevere loop just kind of going, 2 Treveres. Oh, that's not Trevere. You get 2 Treveres practically going in cycle of one another, so that you're always bouncing your opponent's resources, and you're always going to be able to rip technically 2 cards from your opponent's hand at the start of every turn. So like when you go to your turn, you summon Trevere, bounce, rip a card. If Trevere survives, and if you have the ability, you can force out other cards, of course, because you play a lot of traps, alpha, expendable, etc. You're going to be able to like get rid of Trevere to summon back 2, so then in your next turn, you're going to be able to Trevere again. And yeah, the only thing I would say that has come up is where it's kind of like the deck is missing, and you can play like Sirius, I think is the Tellarknight's name. It allows you to recycle your Tellarknights and draw 2. But again, you don't want to play too many monsters. You essentially want to open 1 monster and a stack of traps. But anyway, guys, that is it for this profile. That is it for practically Tellarknights. I do apologize. I wish I could just do a little bit more in depth with you guys, but after this invitational, I will probably be hitting this deck a little bit harder than normal, and you guys will probably see it on stream. And just, yeah, if you comment down below what you guys think. Comment down below your guys' favorite Duelist Alliance decks. I know there's tons of them there. And some of them have been forgotten, but comment down below your guys' favorite. But also, more importantly, guys, stay safe and stay healthy. This is Charles from Team COG signing out.